All right, good morning and welcome to another edition of the External Bum Show. I'm Ralph Williams along with Scott Morganroth and his wife Candy Ebling, who is joining us today as a special guest because Leo Haggerty and Jeremy Balrick have had some things that came up in their schedules. So it's great to have Scott and Candy here. They had a tiring night last night at Miami. So we're going to shorten the show a little bit, let them get some rest and get what they have to get done. Now, I have work to do as well. So we're going to get that done. I have a post-game show to do for the Steelers tomorrow. And then on top of that, I have some shows coming up on Monday. My birthday's on Tuesday. No Sports Corner show on Tuesday. And don't forget, next Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m., 92.5 FM, 1250 on the AM dial is the return of Sports Corner Radio Show with me, Ralph Williams, Smoke, and Jim Frazier, and Claudio Rosano. All right, let's get to the hold on a second here. Let's get to the chat. Josh is already on. Josh, thank you for joining us. And let's see what we got here. He says, "What's going on? Jeremy couldn't wake up today. He had a family emergency last night that came up. Josh, that's what's going on with him. Externally, yeah, okay, I got you." Let's start off with
the wow. Josh has got a good sense of humor, man. What can I tell you?
I know. I can't find Candy on the field. Well, I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of people.
He was at the game last night, and he couldn't find me on the field because, to be honest with you, Joshua, I was all over the field. I walked from one end zone to the other end zone and all over. So, and I couldn't find you, Josh. So I guess
wouldn't find him because he's in his suite. So if there's bad weather, then he's not going to get dumped on by Mother Nature. But there was no bad weather last night in terms of major precipitation.
All right, let's see here. We're in the Mata Heating and Air Conditioning Studio, 724-201-0500. Call Mata today. Mata Heating and Air Conditioning. All right, let's start off with our bum segment. We'll start with you, Candy, since you're our special guest today. Who's your bum for today?
You're probably not going to believe this one, but my bum were some of the fans for the Miami Hurricanes I shouldn't say that. I should say some of the people that were at the game yesterday, because I know it was a long game. And in the fourth quarter, Miami's driving and trying to get going and getting down there on the field and getting to score a touchdown. And there were a lot of injuries in the last quarter, especially. And I think a lot of it had to do with it was really warm and humid. And I think there were a lot of guys cramping, especially for Virginia Tech. And so my bum was the fans that booed them when they went down with injuries. And when they got up, then typically when an injured player gets up from their injury and walks to the sideline, you would cheer them and you would be happy to see that they weren't injured even further. But no, they were booing them, and that's my bum.
All right, Scott, your bum for today or this morning.
The easiest one would be to say the Chicago White Sox, but this has been a train wreck all year, losing 121 games and the Tigers clinching to get in. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to go a different direction. Any Pac-12 team that's in the Big Ten, here's the situation. Last week at the Big House, USC lost to Michigan, okay? And then last night over in Rutgers, okay, Washington lost to the Scarlet Knights 21-18. Did you know that? Here's the situation, okay? These Pac-12 schools are going to get humbled, and they are. I don't care. You've been playing in that conference. Every time a Big 10 school goes out to the Rose Bowl, it's always in warm weather. Wait till these schools start coming and playing in bad weather conditions in November and December and October. Then there was that song called Slip Slide in the Rain. Well, what about Slip Slide in the Snow and the Ice? Because
snow and the ice, yeah.
Pac-12 schools are not going to be able to handle it. So, what's going to end up happening here is this, okay? These Pac-12 schools that had I won't say a relatively easy schedule, but the competition is way much stronger in the Big Ten. If you don't believe me, ask Nebraska, ask Penn State, legendary programs that got humbled when they ended up getting here. So what do you think ends up happening? Well, you know what? They come down to earth a little bit and they just fit in instead of win championships. So he's asking me what So Josh was asking me, do championship teams typically do a ring ceremony on opening night, or is it its own event? Joshua, that's an excellent question. I've covered ring ceremonies before. Many of them have been on opening night. I've covered some Piston ones as well as Red Wing ones, mainly Pistons. They usually do it opening night. I don't know what the Florida Panthers are doing, but if it were me and I were the Panthers, I would put more value into opening night and have a ring ceremony then. That's what I would do.
All right. Yeah, I agree with you, Scott, on that, because I've seen games where USC has traveled to Penn State before this even happened when they merged. And I've seen USC get blown out because of the weather. They're not acclimated to the flying. And I get it. Now this is a classic example of this, because they're used to staying in their little circle down there in the West Coast. And what happens is when you go somewhere else, that's what happens to you.
Well, here's the thing, Ralph. Okay, get ready. You ready for this? Welcome to the new norm! Exclamation point. Pac-12.
Yeah. Hey, we got Cal U coming in here to play Pitt later on this season. And Pitt has to go to SMU. We have no idea what that's like because we've never
but that
been
won't be. But Ralph, sorry to interrupt you, man. That won't be as bad because you're talking Texas over to Pitt. We're talking about the Pacific time zone east.
Right.
The difference a little bit in the time zone. I believe SMU, if I understand correctly, is central time zone, right? I think they're in the metropolitan Dallas area, whereas Pitt, I believe, is on the East Coast. So, yes, there will be some travel involved, but not to the extent that these former Pac-12 schools are having to deal with go from east to west. And, of course, Miami will be going to Cal next week. But get this, we have a bye the following week, so it won't be that big of a deal. And that's our only trip out to the West Coast all year.
All right, my bump today is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They cut loose a couple veterans who only needed 4 games to play to get their bonus. Bob Nutting, he needs to sell the team because he has no interest in the fans. He has no interest in his players. All he's worrying about is making money, and he does. And he makes money because it was 2 million fans that showed up this year at PNC Park for the games because of Andrew McCutchen and Paul Skeens. I'm hearing Paul Skeens is getting a little disgusted. And then last night, Jared Jones got angry with manager Derek Shelton because he got pulled out in the 5th inning with a 0-0 game and the bases loaded. He said he could have got out of that jam, which, of course, the Pirates ended up winning 4-2. But the bottom line is, owner Bob Nutting, you're my bum today for being a cheapskate and not letting these veterans get their bonus. And they played Buster Hump for you and for the team, Michael A. Taylor and Roddy Tellez. That's sad. And then they cut him off the team right after that because they wouldn't let him get their bonus.
Well, let me add to that, okay? The Skeens being upset should really be mainly attributed to Rowdy Tellez. You're only talking 4 stupid at-bats. He's thinking, what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to me later on?
Right.
Exactly. This Rowdy Tellez thing is absurd. I've talked about it on a couple of my shows. I don't mind talking about some Pittsburgh topics every now and then, but this one is deeper than Pittsburgh, Ralph. It really is. 4 lousy at-bats for $200,000, and that's the Pirates, and that's why they haven't been relevant in many, many years.
Yes, exactly. And we'll talk about that next Saturday as well on the radio show. That's what we're going to plan on talking about. And then October 8th, I'm doing a Pirate closing show. I got Noah Howe scheduled from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And our wrestling segment starts 1 hour. All right, this segment was brought to you in part by Scott's book, Lessons from the Microphone, Turning Enduring Wisdom into Visionary Leaders. Scott is also working on part 2 of his book, or a second book, to complement this one, and that's coming up soon. Scott's getting ready to get started with it in I believe November. And all right, here we go. See, also
November, December, Ralph. I'm waiting for the sports year to die down a little bit, so I'll have a few more stories. And last night here in Miami, we ended up getting closer to adding a little bit more after the way things played out last night. But thanks for doing that, Ralph. Fairly kind of you.
You're welcome. Anytime I can help, I help out. All right, this next segment is brought to you in part by Alex's Flowers, 412-661-6071. Call Alex today for a wedding, funeral, or just for your sweetheart. Call Alex today, 30 years in the flower business. He knows how to do flower arrangements. Great delivery service. Call him today, 412-661-6071, Alex's Flowers. All right, Candy Scott. Let's get started with the Oakland A's. Really sad what happened a few days back. The Oakland A's had their last game of the season in Oakland's Alameda County Stadium. The Oakland, the people who live in Oakland or live in Alameda County did not want to have or pay for with their tax dollars or give any funding to a owner who is a billionaire, and I don't blame them. Oakland is a depressed area down there in California in Oakland, and I don't blame them for that. Let's get your thoughts on this. Candy, we'll start with you.
You know, it's sad because I remember back in the day before the Milwaukee Brewers built Miller Park that it went through a vote. There were a lot of it went through a vote with the local city council, and I can tell you that it was a 4-3 vote. And what the fans or the people that lived in the county that had the city council, they actually did a recall and recalled one of the guys that voted for it because they were totally against it. You know, I think yes, I agree. These owners are billionaires, but there's also an economic impact to the city, to the county that these sports teams are playing in. And so it's not just the owner that makes the money on the ticket sales. It's all the people around that stadium too. And you have to think about it's jobs that are lost for the ushers, the ticket sailor, the security guards. I think those are the ones, and then the true fans, those are the ones that really lose out on this. And that's who you really feel sorry for. The billionaires, they're still going to make more money. They're going to do something else. They're going to invest something else. It's sad to see a city lose as much as they've lost, because think about it. They've lost all their sports teams, really. And
yeah, they have a soccer team, a USL soccer team, because they play Pittsburgh once in a while down there in Oakland. But that's all they have. They have nothing else. And one other thing I wanted to add, Candy, real quick is it also goes to the bars and restaurants. It filters down to those establishments who make money off of sports there, which they're not going to make any money at all because there is no sports there other than that. So, I feel bad for those business owners that deal with COVID, and now you got to deal with this stuff, and the Raiders going bye-byes, and now the A's. Scott, your thoughts on this?
Well, you know what? Joshua mentioned some bums. So why don't you go back to the chat room and acknowledge those? If I would do that if I were you. Meanwhile, while you're pulling that information, there you go. My external bum is the Panthers for doing it the night before opening night and then charging $20. I'm not over 2 nights in a row. You know what? No question about it. I agree. Then again, the Panthers have always found a way to go ahead and do these sort of things. So I'm not going to pile on them. I really don't have a vested interest in there. What was the other one that he mentioned as well? Back up one so I can read it myself. Yeah, the $20 to me. So, all right, we know about the championship teams. All right, let's go back.
That's it right now. This is the one right here.
Yeah, the Panthers. Yeah. I agree, Josh. I wouldn't go 2 nights in a row either. Smart move. Yeah. So there's no whole lot that Florida Panthers are going to do, Joshua, to really impress me anyways. But I want to make sure that we did not ignore what you put up there. No problem. As far as the Oakland A's situation, have either of you ever been at the Oakland Coliseum?
No.
Well, guess what? I was there many years ago when the Lions played the Raiders. And I'll tell you what, that neighborhood is not safe. It really is. So, I remember when I went to my hotel, I stayed right near the stadium, and it wasn't that far away. I ended up going, you walk there, you have to kind of watch over your back a little bit. So as far as Oakland, this has been a downward spiral for a while. Let's bear in mind, though, when the Warriors left, all they did was go across the bay to go to San Francisco. It's not like a total loss there.
Right.
And as far as the Raiders are concerned, there's been stadium issues with that whole area for a while. So at some point or another, you either have to get something done or you don't. And these have lingered on for 20 years. Now, earlier in the week, Larry Beal, who used to work at ESPN, went off and really laughed at and ranted about the apology for John Fisher. I agree with Larry. I mean, Fisher, to me, as far as I'm concerned, there was an offer by the Golden State Warriors owners to go out there and buy the team, but he didn't want to sell it. So, I mean, it's his right to do it.
Right.
But What are you going to do? I mean, right now they still have to get a much better facility, regardless of who the heck's paying for it.
Exactly.
You really do.
Yeah.
So we can say that the owner's not right because he's a billionaire, but the city, even when the owner passes away, is still going to be the beneficiary of the facility. They are. So, I'm not defending one way or the other. I'm not doing that. But the reality of the situation is they've had 20 years. And unfortunately, Vegas turned out to be the best option for both of them. But let me tell you, that Vegas financing deal isn't totally settled in there yet, number one. And number two, they're going to Sacramento, so they have some work to do to get that ballpark up to MLB standards, and they don't even have a covering over. And I hear it gets 100 degrees. So the A's situation is very dysfunctional. There's still a lot of things that are badly wrong with it, but this is something that we've seen coming for a lot of years, regardless of who the ownerships are.
Let's remember that on Wednesday night, there were some people that actually tore out rows of seats Wednesday night that were so rusty from years of neglect that they could pull them out.
Whoa.
And then other fans, that's like neglect. I mean, come on. They needed to do something, And then they were saying how they were asking players and coaches to go down and fill empty water bottles with some of the dirt from the infield. And players and coaches were actually doing that so they could have a part of history. I remember seeing a guy that had a sign up that said he was there for the very first game when they opened the stadium, and then he was there for the last game. So mixed emotions, I'm sure, for him.
Well, the one thing both of you guys haven't acknowledged yet, this is the fourth time this franchise has moved when they go to Vegas, or even fifth, 4.5 if you count Sacramento. What do they start off with? Philadelphia, Kansas City, Oakland, and now Vegas. So, let's face the reality. It's not like they've been a stationary target for over 50, 60 years. So I think, both sides are at fault for this. The owner, I'm not defending John Fisher. I think he's wrong. If there were local buyers there that were willing to do it, they are. But in the reality is the San Francisco Bay Area now is a one market team. But thankfully they have interleague play. So you can see all the teams, but that happens. What are you going to do? I mean, the Giants have the whole monopoly themselves. They rejected the proposal to go to San Jose many years ago, and they wanted it all to themselves, and now they're going to get it.
Absolutely, it, and this is crazy. I'll tell you a little quick story here before we move on.
Well, here, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me go back in history. When the Raiders moved to LA, the 49ers had the whole market. So this is very parallel to what you have now.
Yeah, I remember when they went to play at the Coliseum when the Raiders were there. And then here I have a quick story real quick. Bob Nutting was approached by Mark Cuban, who's a Pittsburgh native. And Mark Cuban offered him double what he was asking for. And he said, the Pirates are not for sale. And he said, I'll give it to my daughter before I sell it to you. That's exactly the kind of attitude that he has as well, and I wanted to let everyone know on that one.
Yeah, but you know what, though? He's entitled to do that. Think about it. I mean, the Lions have been in the Ford family for a long time. It just so happens you finally got it right with Sheila Ham Ford. So, hey, these family businesses are welcome to always pass it down from one tier to the other. So there's no big deal. I mean, give it to the daughter, so be it. The main thing is all you want to do is you want better results, maybe a different philosophy, so there's an intent to try to win. And the Pirates have certainly been anything but a model franchise over the last 30-some-odd years. They've been an absolute embarrassment for one of they've been an embarrassment for one of these markets that has a great history behind it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go to our next segment, brought to you in part by Big Dogs Auto in West Mifflin by the Allegheny County Airport, 412-999-0191. Call Big Dog Auto today. Affordable prices, oil changes, brakes, state inspection, much more. Give them a call today. Call the Big Dog, and the Big Dog will not take you to the cleaners like some other shops. All right. Let's talk a little bit about some college football, or I'm sorry, the NFL. We have some great games coming up this week. Scott, what game do you think is the game of the week this week? We'll start with you.
I mean, I'm going to go with Detroit and Seattle. Detroit hasn't beaten Seattle in ages, and now they get to have a chance to do it on Monday night. Seattle's been an Achilles heel for them, but they'll have them on the national stage on Monday night for sure. So I'll be a little bit more biased towards that one.
Candy.
Of course, I'm going to be biased towards my Green Bay against Minnesota. It's the interdivisional. Minnesota is hot. They're 3-0. Their defense looks real tough, and they're saying that Jordan's been practicing, so I think he'll be back. But how limited? Like how? My question is going to be when someone comes back from an injury, especially something like that, where it wasn't like a clean break and stuff like that, and the break is completely healed. When you sprain something or do something like that, are you tenuous when you come back? Are you favoring something so you don't injure it more and stuff like that? Plus, Aaron Jones, it'll be his first time coming back and playing against the Packers. He was drafted by the Packers. He wrote a heartfelt thank you to the Packers before this game, but saying that, let's face it, this is a business, and people, they get traded, they go where they can make the money. But I think that's going to be a tough fought game. So I'm biased, but that's my game.
Well, let me add to this. Many years ago, I tore a ligament in my left ankle after a skiing accident, and it took me a couple of years to heal, and subsequently lead to a arthroscopic procedure on my right knee because I was putting all the weight. So, you know what? I would have rather broken that ankle rather than have anything to do with ligaments and tendons and like Candy just alluded to. So, yeah, give me that all day long. A break, you heal. Ligaments, tendons, whatever you want to call it, sprains, they're difficult, let alone in a contact sport. Me personally, what I would do if I was the Packers is I'd let Love sit again, and I'd let Malik Willis go another week if you can do it. You've already gotten 2 wins out of the guy. Why not attempt to get a 3? If you don't win, so what?
Keep the hard arm going, Scott. Yes, exactly. Keep the, if he's the hot hand, let it go.
Well, I don't know, Ralph, whether he's a hot hand or whether he's, rolling up big numbers. But here's the thing you have to understand. They're 2-0 with Malik Willis. And you got him for next to nothing with the Titans. And he had a decent game against the Titans. What the hell's the difference if you go out there and put him in one more stinking week up in, Green Bay? Who cares? I mean, up there, I would keep him in one more week and try to be careful with Love. Remember, you got a lot of money invested into this guy. The last thing you need to do is make a mistake that could get you into deeper trouble. That's what I would do.
Oh, yeah. I have several here, actually. There are some really good games. Saints, Falcons, that's a division game. Jaguars, Texans, let's see what happens with Doug Peterson's team. He's 0-3. So, I mean, let's see what he does.
Forget the fact he's 0-3. How many games have they lost in a row dating back to last year? I think they've lost like 11, 12, 13 in a row. They've lost a lot of games in a row in the last year and a half. So things going to get a little bit tense in Jacksonville.
Yeah, Vikings, Packers, I like that. Bears, Rams. There's some really good games. Steelers are playing the Colts. I think that's going to be an interesting game. Let's see what the Steelers do against Shane Steichen. They're 0-2 against him. Last year with Indianapolis, they lost that game. And then they lost to him when he was offensive coordinator with the Eagles. So, let's see what that happens here. Eagles, Buccaneers, that's going to be an interesting matchup. Plenty of great games this week alone. And also last night, Scott, the Miami game against Virginia Tech. How did that go last night?
A game for the ages. I can tell you how many unbelievable games I've seen at Hard Rock Stadium. Been to a couple Super Bowls there myself, and I've been to 4 Super Bowls. 2 of them were in that building. That building to me is magical. And last night we saw another one of those moments where the Canes held on for a 38-34 win. A Hail Mary where the call was overturned by replay gave Miami the win. But you know what? Here's the thing. Let's not think about last night's Miami-Virginia Tech game. Let's think about the first 4 games where Miami manhandled their opponents, and all of a sudden you come up against a tough Virginia Tech team, and they finally got to play conference football, and it was tough. But there's no debating that Cam Ward, to me, is an unbelievable player. He ran for a touchdown. Even though he had a couple of turnovers, he still overcame those turnovers to pull out the win. So Mario Cristobal is a good coach. But, when you have a game like this, like Coach Cristobal said last night to us, is now he has a game for which you can take a lot of film, and he's going to work on it this week and try to get some of those things worked out. So got to hand it to Virginia Tech, though. They played a heck of a ball game. They really did. It was like a boxing match, the way they were just exchanging back and forth. You think Andrew Borregales with a 56-yard touchdown field goal going into halftime, which gave Miami a little momentum going in there. But it was a great football game. It's one where you hate to see lose, but that Hail Mary was unbelievable. And Cam Ward's a heck of a player. But I'll tell you one thing: Virginia Tech should not hold their heads low. Tech played an excellent ball game. They really did. Miami has some work to do, and they're going to be on the road when they go to Berkeley to take on California next Saturday night late.
All right. That's going to be interesting. We're in the Mata Heating and Air Conditioning Studio, 724-2010-500 Mata Heating and Air Conditioning. And our final segment is brought to you in part by Farmers Insurance with Robin Campbell. Call Robin today, 412-366-3399. He also has Bristol West Insurance. He'll set you up with all your insurance needs, Robin Campbell Insurance. All right. We're going to go into our local, which is sort of similar to our My Town segment that we do Thursday night on Fire Up. I want to apologize for my not being in attendance. I had issues with my internet. And then when I tried to do some backup stuff, that didn't work either. And I was having all kinds of issues. So I'm sorry, technical problems cut me out of the show. All right, Candy, we'll start with you, local. Go ahead with your local part of the show.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers have done a remarkable job this year. They won one of the groups that tries to figure out who's going to make the playoffs, who's going to win the division, gave the Brewers at the beginning of the season a 15% chance of winning their division. 15%. And yet they have held the division lead since July something. And back in May, I think, is when they were tied with somebody. They outperformed more than what everybody thought. Pat Murphy has a chance to become coach of the year. If he does that, then NL will get NL coach of the year, but two of our farm teams also won managers of the year. And I think that'll be the first time that all three of those divisions will actually win manager of the year. The Timber Rattlers and I don't remember the other one, but that's what's really happening. I mean, obviously we were at the Miami game last night. That was exciting. Tonight we're going to the FAU game versus Wagner. So those are the two things that I would say that are happening really right now in my two towns, my hometown and this town that I live.
That game against Wagner ought to be pretty interesting because Wagner really doesn't have much of a team. Robert Morris here in Pittsburgh, they beat Wagner by a touchdown. But Robert Morris, of course, they lost to a Division III Edinburgh. So, for them to come back and beat Wagner the week after. Scott, go ahead with your local.
Yeah, I owe Tom Herman of FAU a hat, so I'll probably bring it there and either give it to him tonight or see when we can arrange it so I can give him a hat ceremony. He wanted a Motor City Madmouth hat, and we got one specially ordered for Herman. Well, the worst kept secret became a reality last night. Skip Schumacher gets a 15-5 win over the Toronto Blue Jays, tells the team he's going to be away taking care of family business, won't manage the last two games. And guess what? He's not coming back. He was on a lame duck situation when they renegotiated his contract to take the option out of there. Skip will land somewhere else anyways. They've done a good job. I had a better working relationship with Don Mattingly. What would you expect? Donnie's a good friend of mine anyways. But Skip, once they start dismantling the team, when you got rid of Luis Arias in May, then you saw the writing on the wall, and then all the other big trade bombs ended up falling. And as a result, the Marlins have lost 100 games. So, I wish Skip well, enjoyed working with him for the short time that we had. I'd like to see who Miami's going to bring in there, because Peter Bendix and company want to bring in their own people. Well, we'll see. This team has a long way to go. They've heard this drill way too many times, and we'll see where it goes. The other one I want to allude to is how about kudos to the Detroit Tigers? Everybody thought that they were going to go ahead and be sellers, and in retrospect, we're basic sellers at the deadline. But you know what? That's when you have a great manager like they do with A.J. Hinch, what do you think happens? Okay, here's a guy that was looking for another chance. The Tigers gave it to him. He's weathered a rebuild, and now Detroit has snapped a 10-year playoff drought, and they made it to the playoffs for the first time since 2014. I believe they finished over 500, I believe, for the first time. I want to say in 8 years, or I believe 16. But either way, the Tigers could be a very dangerous team by the time they go out there and get to the playoffs. So you know what? Here's a team right now. Ralph and Candy, they're playing on house money. They really are. And
Yeah,
you know,
they are.
this is a team you don't want to face. And if you face
No.
them, then watch out, because these guys are playing with no fear. They are.
Right.
So as far as I'm concerned, I'm happy for the Tigers. I saw the Tigers and the Marlins play earlier this year in April as with Candy. It was neat going to see these two teams back in the Metro Detroit, because I have fondness for both of them. The Tigers I've covered for many years. They're a part of my entire life. The Marlins here later in my life here, have been my lifeline to stay in Major League Baseball, and they've treated me well too. So, you know, we're talking about two teams going entirely different directions. I might even think about writing the Tigers PR guy, Chad Crunk, a note, say congratulations getting into playoffs. I'm not sure yet, and I'll go out there and say, should I come out there and cover some games? I'm going to need some more recommendations of some hidden gems. And one of those hidden gems that Chad came up with many years ago was a guy by the name of Jake Rogers. So Chad, to me, has come up with some great recommendations. I'll see. But right now, I'm going to leave that alone and all that. So kudos to the Tigers. We'll see what happens with the Marlins. I wish Skip Schumacher well. I'm just curious to see who the next skipper will be here in Miami.
All right, my town here, not my town. Ooh, wow, local here. The Steelers, another game with Justin Fields. He's the hot hand right now, and Russell Wilson's still hurt. To take it very slow with him, and so we'll see what happens. We got a couple offensive linemen coming back. We got a guy named Mason McCormick that's going to be playing for Salomalu because he's still not ready. Our number one draft pick's done for the year, but don't worry, the Steelers are going to recover and come back and win this week. Also, the Pirates, they're done. I don't want to talk about them. I said enough about them earlier in the show. The Penguins are getting started here. The regular season starts soon for the Penguins. Let's see what they do this year. The guys are back. The boys are back in town. Letang, Malkin, and Sidney Crosby. Let's see if they can get one last Stanley Cup before they retire when their contracts are up. So let's see what happens there as well.
Hey, Ralph, let me add one thing to it, okay? What you're talking about. Number one, Russell Wilson should stay on the bench. Justin Fields should be your quarterback. I think he's the right guy to lead that offense. And number two, I said this on Fire Up, and I'll say it up again. Caleb Williams will be a bust.
Oh, I said that many times. I
that.
know he's going to be a bust. I can tell you that right now. Chicago's not a great place to play to begin with. But anyway, yeah, he is going to be a bust. I think he was overrated as a quarterback. And, I said that when the draft happened. And Jeremy said it too, and so did a few others.
Now, the Steelers going to make out like bandits with Justin Fields. All he needed was a winning organization and a coach who believed in him. And then we all know that the Steelers, obviously exemplify that. Okay, they've been a great organization for a lot of years. Well, Tomlin, say what you want about the guy, but if they had let him go, I got news for you. Tomlin could have written his own check anywhere he wanted to. So I'm glad Mike stayed with Pittsburgh. But Justin Fields should be your quarterback, hands down. Russell Wilson, would you get him on a bargain basement deal anyway?
Yeah. We got him for $1.2 million. So, that's not a lot of money. Maybe it's time for him to step away. You got that big money from Denver. I don't think, to be frankly honest with you, I don't think he even needs to play anymore if he really doesn't want to. If he banks his money correctly. And, but anyway, I agree with you, Scott. I think Justin Fields is the guy. He had a change of atmosphere sometimes does you good. And he's around some great coaches. Arthur Smith's a good quarterback and offensive coordinator. And we have two great quarterbacks coaches, one in Mike Sullivan and another one we just brought in this year from the Jets.
How many times have you seen a change of scenery?
Yes.
Do wonders for a lot of
Sam Darnold. How about Sam Darnold?
Yeah, there's another example. Look, everybody gave up on this guy, and all he needed was a good coach, Kevin O'Connell. And how's he doing now? Everybody looks bad. We talked about this, Candy, on the Sports Exchange Wednesday night about Sam Darnold with Jennifer Matthews Lewis. My goodness. I mean, Sam the man. I mean, everybody wrote him off, and now all of a sudden, they by having Sam Darnold, I don't mind going for another minute or two if you want to, but if you want to get this point in. Well, I mean, I don't have a lot of time, but I can certainly voice this thing. Number one, having Sam Darnold gives the Vikings a luxury here, and so that they can go out there and bring on J.J. McCarthy a little bit slower. So,
yeah, exactly. That gives him time to go over the playbook and learn some things while he's sitting
well,
around.
he's injured right now. He'll rehab all year. He should look at the playbook. I've always said that a rookie quarterback should sit for the first year, anyways. And I'll never back off that. And the same held true when Andy Dalton took over the reins for Carolina. And now Bryce Young just better sit back, relax, and learn under the vet, and he'll be ready to come back. I wouldn't give up on him right away. But the main thing, it all goes back to what we said many years ago, that a lot of times your new rookie quarterbacks need 1, 2, 3 years. I mean, we all know how it worked out with Rodgers and company,
Yeah.
far. And it's proven. I mean, how anybody can sit here unless you're an owner where you're getting happy feet, you want to play with your new toy.
Oh, exactly. All right, don't forget to go out and get Scott's book at Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and also on his publishing company, Lessons from the Microphone: Tuning into Visionary Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. I have the book. I haven't gotten through the whole book yet, but I will. But it's a great book to read. Check it out. It talks about Scott's 40 years of experience in the media business. And also, don't forget, next Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m., the debut, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. of the return of the Sports Corner radio show with me, Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier. And we have added to our panel Claudia Rosano, our special guest, Luther Dupree Jr. from the Steel City Sports World and the Boxing Authority show. 1250 AM, 92.5 FM on The Answer. That's the name of the station. Any final thoughts before we leave? We're getting ready to wrap it up here. Candy, we'll start with you. Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are just for all you football teams that are looking at the Miami game last night. The only thing I will say is don't put it in the ref's hands. If you don't want the ref to be the last word, then you go out and play your hearts out and don't let the last word be from the ref. Because I'll be honest with you, I was down there on the field. They first called it not a touchdown. They didn't know what to call it. They didn't know what to call it. They didn't call it. They didn't call it. Then they called it a touchdown. Then they went back to the replay, and it was pandemonium in there because they had first said touchdown, and they're like, no, wait. And then we're like, oh no, what are they going to do? And then they overturned it. I mean, either side, they made the right call, but either side I feel bad for, but don't let it come down to that. And that's what I'm going to say. That'd be my
all right. Scott, final thoughts before we wrap it up.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, Candy and I went out there and covered FAU and Miami in one day. Then we decided to do the Marlins the following day. It's a pretty neat experience to be able to do 3 in 2 days. Well, guess what? Well, last night we had the Canes epic game, and we have Wagner. Thanks for giving me the scouting report that they'll probably be begging me to come back when they get wins, because the wins have been far and few between. But my final thoughts are this. Next Saturday, we don't have any games. And you know what? I'm looking forward to having a Saturday and Sunday off so I can think about some South Florida Tribune business and trying to do a lot of other things with the platform to make it even stronger than it already is. So, I'll enjoy tonight's game. It'll certainly be a much different atmosphere from Hard Rock Stadium to FAU Stadium. But nevertheless, they're both universities I have nice relationships with, enjoy supporting both of them. But I'll enjoy next weekend where I can finally sit back and say, I kind of enjoy a weekend off once in a while too.
And I didn't mind checking in on my friends down in Florida, yourselves, of course. I checked in with Peter Blake and Leo Haggerty and Harry the Greek, because you guys are all my friends in media down there. I've had you guys on all my shows, and it's a pleasure. And I wanted to make sure you guys were okay down there with the hurricane.
Well, you want to know an irony here? I was talking to some of the Canes people. One of my favorite people is their PR guy, Cam Gorby. And I was telling Cam, it's a good thing we got to Tampa last week, so we're back home. He said, yeah, it kind of worked out well for us, didn't it? So, yeah, I mean, Cam and I Candy will tell you that as I've gotten to know Cam over the last few years, we have a good working relationship together, right, Candy? And we were joking around and said, I'm glad we're here at Hard Rock this week instead of Tampa this week, because it would have been a little chaotic. So,
well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, Scott and Candy. My wife and I had some plans to come down at the end of October to Florida. We're going to stay in Orlando. We're going to drive down, drop my friend off at St. Augustine, Florida, so he could see his kids, and then we were going to all come back. Well, it turns out that due to scheduling conflicts with my friend, and also how we got treated in Erie, and our traveling has been kind of rough this year, we decided to cancel our trip. And I was going to stop by and say hello to you guys or meet up with you somewhere.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, and Peter, and I was going to meet up with Leo, and I had told Harry the Creek that I was coming down, and he wasn't going to say anything to anybody because it was going to be a surprise. He was going to try to round up Ray Kennedy and all them guys down there. So, I just wanted to let you know that as well.
Well,
But,
Joshua and his cronies wanted me to go out there and cover this UCF and Florida game, and I told him, nah, you know what? I'm actually Katrina McCormick was citing that as a possible weekend to do something with Tom Herman. I don't know, but I told
Right.
Josh and his boys, you know what, man? An old guy like me happens to need a weekend off because we've been on the run all summer and now picking up in football. We don't regret it. We enjoy doing it. It's part of it's a lot of what we do. But every once in a while, you just need to sit there and take a break and recharge because we're going to be busy, right, Candy, until the end of the year. It's not going to stop. And then later on in the year, I'm going to be working on my book again. So I just want to pile in as much as I can and then watch the year settle itself down just a little bit.
Yeah, I've done that a few times this year, and I'm going to continue to do it. Recharge the batteries, go on a trip, get out of town. We did that, and then we had the fire here in our building that kind of got us a little bit in a, you know what I mean? I've never, you know what? I'm not scared of nothing, but I've never been scared in my life until that fire happened. And unfortunately for us, God help us, we were safe, here, and no damage to our apartment except for some smoke. Surf Pro's been in here a couple times to look at our air vents. We had to get our air conditioning fixed because of the smoke. It went so far deep into the compressor that they had to come up here and actually put a whole new compressor in. We were able to get that done, and the Surf Pro people were here. Now we can close our windows and we don't have to smell the residual smoke coming from the apartment 3 floors down from us. That's
Good
still
stuff.
condemned. So
Glad you're okay. That's all that matters.
yeah, that's it. That's it. I'm glad you folks are okay down there with that hurricane. I mean, I was looking at that. I said, whoa, and no offense, I'm glad I don't live in Florida. So,
Well, South Florida did manage to dodge this one. I know other parts of the state are not so fortunate, but you know what? I hate to see anything happen to anybody in our state, and it's not a fun experience. But hopefully, things will get back to normal as soon as possible for those.
yeah, I got friends in Raleigh. They told me they got hammered with rain and winds. Things were blowing all over the place. They told me down there. And so, I almost moved to Raleigh. I almost stayed down there when I went down there to deal with my aunt's affairs, who passed away in 2019. I had to be the executor to her estate. And when I went down there, my mom and I, we weren't coming back. We were going to stay down there. And, I liked it so much, but we decided to come back because we had to. So,
Okay, well, that does it for us, Ralph. I have
that's
to get
it for us
a
tonight.
meeting.
And you guys have a great day. Get some rest, to take care of, South Florida Tribune business, and we'll talk with you next week. This has been the External Bum Show. I'm your host, Ralph Williams. Please don't forget to get Scott's book, and also don't forget about the radio show next week, 2 to 3 p.m., 92.5 FM and 1250 a.m. The Answer, the return of the Sports Corner radio show. For Candy Ebling, Scott Morgan Roth, I'm Ralph Williams. Have yourself a great one. Thank you.